You've been lied to. Working harder won't make you rich. In fact, it might be the very thing keeping you broke. Think about it. Why do some people spot opportunities and build massive wealth, while others grind endlessly just to stay afloat? It's not luck, it's not intelligence, it's creativity. And the best part? You don't need to be an artist or a genius to use it. In this video, I'll show you how creative thinking, not just hustle, can multiply your income. Simple daily habits that train your brain to find opportunities faster. And why the highest earners aren't the hardest workers, they're the smartest thinkers. By the end, you'll know how to break out of the cycle of working harder for less and start making creativity your biggest advantage. So, let's dive in. You've been told your whole life that hard work is the key to success. But if that were true, then wouldn't the hardest working people be the richest? Look around. Construction workers, nurses, teachers, small business owners, many of them work 60 to 80 hours a week, yet they're barely getting ahead. Meanwhile, billionaires like Steve Jobs weren't outworking everyone, they were outthinking them. And that comes down to creativity. When Apple was designing the first iPhone, every phone on the market had a physical keyboard. It was the standard way of doing things. The BlackBerry executives even laughed at the idea of an all-touchscreen phone because, at the time, it sounded ridiculous. But Jobs asked a simple creative question. What if the keyboard didn't have to exist at all? Instead of making a slightly better phone, he reimagined what a phone could be. By removing the keyboard, Apple created a completely new experience, one that would make BlackBerry obsolete and turn Apple into the most valuable company in the world. And this isn't some new strategy. Henry Ford did the exact same thing. When people wanted faster transportation, they assumed the only option was faster horses. But Ford asked, what if we didn't need horses at all? That question led to the mass production of cars and changed the world forever. The biggest breakthroughs don't come from working harder. They come from asking, what if there's a completely different way to do this? Try this. Every day for the next week, take one problem in your business, your career, or your life and ask, if I couldn't solve this the usual way, what would I do instead? Then spend 10 minutes brainstorming. Even the crazy ideas. Break the problem apart, rebuild it differently, and see what happens. For example, let's say you're an entrepreneur struggling with competition. Instead of trying to beat your competition at their own game, could you target a completely different audience that no one else is serving? Or maybe you're a freelancer and you're sick of clients ghosting you after you send a proposal. Well, what if instead of charging per project, you offered a prepaid subscription where clients pay upfront for ongoing work? Or let's say you're an employee who's drowning in emails every day. Instead of wasting hours responding manually, could you set up templates or automate responses to free up your time? The people who win aren't the ones who follow the rules. They're the ones who rethink the rules. But creativity doesn't just help you solve problems. It also helps you stay ahead of change. And right now, the world is changing faster than ever before. Entire industries are disappearing. AI, automation, and new technology are wiping out old ways of doing business. And the people who can't adapt, they're getting left behind. If you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed entire industries are disappearing. AI, automation, new technology, well, business is changing faster than ever, and the jobs and strategies that worked 5 years ago are already outdated. A lot of people are getting left behind. But the ones who can think creatively, they're not just surviving, they're thriving. Take Kodak. They actually invented the digital camera, but instead of embracing it, they ignored it because they were afraid that it would kill their film business. They stuck to what was comfortable. And what happened? Well, within a few years, digital cameras replaced film completely, and Kodak went bankrupt. Now, compare that to Apple and Netflix. Apple didn't just make a better iPod. They saw where the world was going and turned it into the iPhone. Netflix did the same thing. They could have clung to DVD rentals, but instead they pivoted to streaming before anybody else. Today, Kodak is a cautionary tale, and Apple and Netflix own their industries. The lesson here is that it's not the smartest or the hardest working people who win, it's the ones who see change coming and move first. So try this. Every morning, ask yourself, what's one thing in my industry that could change everything? Then, write down 3 ways you could adapt before it happens. Because by the time most people react to change, it's already too late. For example, let's say you're a business owner and AI is starting to automate parts of your industry. Instead of ignoring it or hiding from it, could you find a way to use AI to work faster so you can stay ahead while your competitors fall behind? Or maybe you're a marketer and you've noticed that social media reach keeps dropping. Well, instead of relying on platforms that keep changing, could you build an email list so you're not at the mercy of the algorithms? Or maybe you're an employee and your company is laying people off left, right, and center. Could you develop a skill that's in high demand so no matter what happens, you'll always have options? The people who succeed don't wait for change to happen to them. They see it coming and adapt before everyone else. So, we know creativity helps you adapt, but adapting alone isn't enough. If you want to win in business, you can't just keep up. You have to stand out. It doesn't matter how good your product, your service, or your skills are. If you don't stand out, you don't get noticed. And if you don't get noticed, you don't make money. Look at Red Bull. When they first launched, they weren't the only energy drink on the market. In fact, their product wasn't even the best tasting. If they had tried to compete on flavor or ingredients alone, they would have been just another forgettable brand. So instead of trying to be better, they focused on being different. They built their entire brand around extreme sports, adrenaline, and pushing human limits. They sponsored skydivers and Formula One teams, and even sent a guy to the edge of space just to jump off. Red Bull wasn't competing on flavor, they weren't even competing on energy, they were competing on identity. And that's why they won. Today, Red Bull is worth billions, while dozens of better energy drinks have completely disappeared. The lesson here is that people don't buy the best product, they buy the most interesting one. So try this. Start a swipe file, which is a collection of marketing ideas, branding strategies, and creative campaigns that grab your attention. Then, every day, spend 10 minutes analyzing why they worked. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, could you create a brand that stands for something bigger, so customers connect with you on a deeper level? If you're a freelancer, could you position yourself differently? Instead of being just another designer or just another writer, could you specialize in a way that makes you the clear and obvious choice? Niching down is a really great way to do this. Or, if you're an employee, could you develop a unique skill that makes you completely irreplaceable, so when it's time for promotions or layoffs, there's no question about your value? The businesses, brands, and people who stand out make the most money. The ones who blend in get ignored. All that said, standing out is great, but what if you could see money-making opportunities before anyone else? Because the people making the most money aren't just different, they're first. And the secret to getting there first is spotting what other people miss. Most people think that opportunities come from luck, but the truth? Opportunities come from seeing what others ignore. Take Airbnb. It started because two broke guys couldn't afford rent. Hotels were packed during big events, and people needed a place to stay. Most people would have just complained about high hotel prices, but the founders of Airbnb asked a different question. What if people could rent out spare rooms in their homes? At the time, it sounded ridiculous. Why would a stranger ever pay to stay in someone's house? But that one creative insight turned into a billion-dollar company. And today, Airbnb is worth more than the biggest hotel chains in the world, without owning a single hotel. The lesson here is that most people look at the world the way it is. Creative people see what it could be. So try this. Every day, ask yourself, what's something people struggle with that I can solve in a creative way? Then, write down at least 3 ideas, even if they seem crazy. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, is there something frustrating about your industry that no one is fixing? Could you create a new solution instead of competing on the exact same old ideas as everybody else? Or if you're a freelancer, what's something that your clients always struggle with? Could you package your services in a way that makes their life easier and positions you as the obvious choice? Or if you're an employee, is there an inefficiency at work that no one else has addressed? Could you create a system or a workflow that saves time and makes you stand out as a problem solver? Opportunities don't just appear. You create them by thinking differently. Okay, so spotting opportunities is one thing, but acting on them, well, that's where most people fail. Because here's the sad truth. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. How many great ideas never happened because someone was afraid of messing up? How many businesses never got started because someone hesitated? Well, the truth is, the biggest financial rewards come from taking smart risks. But most people hesitate because they focus on everything that could go wrong. Imagine you have a secure 6-figure job. Would you walk away from it to sell books online? Most people wouldn't, but Jeff Bezos did. And his reason why is what made all the difference. Instead of obsessing over the risk, he used a simple mental trick. He asked himself, when I'm 80, will I regret not trying this? That one question made the decision easy. He realized that even if Amazon failed, he'd rather take the chance than spend his whole life wondering, what if? Today, that crazy risk turned Amazon into a $1 trillion company. The lesson here is that the most successful people aren't fearless. They just reframe risk in a way that makes it easier to move forward. So try this. Every time you hesitate on a big decision, don't focus on the fear. Instead, ask yourself, how can I make this less risky? Then, write down 5 ways to reduce the downside, instead of avoiding the opportunity altogether. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, could you test your idea on a small scale before going all in? Instead of quitting your job, could you launch a side project first? Or if you're a contractor or a freelancer, could you get your first clients before making the leap full-time, so you're not starting from completely zero? Or if you're an employee, Could you take on a small leadership role before pitching yourself for a big promotion? So you've got proof that you're ready. The smartest risk takers aren't reckless. They just think creatively about how to move forward without getting stuck in fear. And here's the best part. This isn't just for entrepreneurs. Even if you have a 9-to-5 job, creativity is one of the highest paying skills you can develop, because the people who bring fresh ideas, who innovate, and who solve problems, they get promoted first. They get paid more. Most people think creativity is only for entrepreneurs and artists, but here's the truth. Even in a traditional career, creativity is one of the most valuable and highest paying skills. Companies don't just want employees who follow instructions. They want people who think strategically, solve problems, and bring fresh ideas to the table. And they're willing to pay more for it. A lot more. A LinkedIn report ranked creativity as the #1 soft skill employers want. Because creative employees drive innovation, improve efficiency, and solve problems that others don't even notice. So here's something to try. Once a week, come up with one idea to improve a process, a system, or a strategy at work. It could be a way to save time, or cut costs, or make something run more smoothly. Then present it to your boss or to your team. For example, let's say you're in customer service and you keep noticing that customers keep asking the same 5 questions over and over. Well, instead of answering them over and over, could you create a simple FAQ guide that saves time for everyone? Or if you work in sales, could you test a new follow-up strategy that improves conversions? And then show your manager how it boosted results. Or maybe you're in operations and you realize there's a repetitive task that could be automated. Well, what if you introduced a tool or a workflow that saved hours every week? The fastest way to increase your value and your income is to think creatively about how to make things better. But making money at work is just one piece of the puzzle. Because here's the thing. Making more money at your job is great, but if you want opportunities to come to you, talking about high-paying clients and better job offers and business deals, you need something else, something more. Most people don't realize this, but your personal brand is one of the most valuable assets that you own. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, or an employee. The more people know, like, and trust you, the more opportunities come your way. Clients, job offers, partnerships, promotions, they all flow to the people who stand out. And standing out? That takes creativity. Take Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. He wasn't the best wine expert in the world, but he didn't need to be. Instead of trying to compete on knowledge, he built a brand that made people pay attention. He made raw, unfiltered videos talking about wine in a way that no one else did. Loud, opinionated, somewhat entertaining. It was different, it was memorable, and it worked. That personal brand turned a small family liquor store into a $60 million business, and later, into an empire. The lesson here is that people don't just buy products or services, they buy from people they connect with. So try this exercise. Spend 10 minutes a day sharing your insights in your industry, whether it's through social media, a blog, or short videos. People need to see how you think before they trust you. For example, if you're a freelancer, could you post one quick tip a day about your expertise so potential clients start seeing you as the go-to person in your field? Or if you're in corporate, could you start sharing industry trends or leadership insights on LinkedIn so when hiring managers or executives look you up, they already see you as valuable? Or if you run a business, could you document the behind the scenes of what you do so customers feel more connected to you and your brand? The more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities come your way. Creativity isn't just about making things. It's the key to making more money, seeing more opportunities, and getting ahead no matter what you do. Success isn't just about working harder, it's about thinking differently. The people making the most money aren't just grinding away. They're spotting opportunities before anyone else. They're adapting when others freeze. They're innovating while everyone else plays it safe. And that's not luck, that's creativity in action. But the best part of this all, by far, is that creativity isn't some magical gift. You don't have to be born with it. It's a skill that you train. So here's your challenge. Pick one habit from this video and start today. Train your brain to think in new ways, because 6 months from now, you won't just be seeing more opportunities, you'll be creating them. Now here's the sad, unfortunate reality. Most people that hear this will change nothing. They'll keep working harder and just hoping that things will magically improve. But the few who actually take action, and I'm hoping that's you, well, they're the ones who create the wealth, the freedom, and the life they want. So let me ask you, are you going to keep working harder for less? Or are you finally ready to think differently and take control of your future? Because if so, I've put together a playlist right here with the next steps. So feel free to tap or click that now, and I'll see you in there in just a second.